to make your standing figures look more appealing, to give them a little bit more of a natural vibe, is to use the idea of contrapposto, which is basically like the bend and twist of the torso and the figure. So let's just go over my notes. I wrote these actually a while ago, and then I got busy, so I need to like remember my notes. And then we're gonna go talk about the poses, and we're gonna study from Miss Jisoo. This was my very first art book that I ever bought. It'll be fun to look through it and talk about contrapposto. Standing poses are always affected by gravity. Well, everything is affected by gravity if you're drawing something on Earth, on the planet Earth. So for that, we don't want to just have a standing figure that's very flat like this. Having something like this is good as a diagram, a technical drawing that you want to showcase something very specific, but it makes the character look stiff. So what we need to do for contrapposto, the big overall idea is that for standing figures, we need gravity is number one. And what does gravity do? It creates this balance, this sort of movement in the figure that gives this life, this energy, and a pursuit of happiness, Thomas Jefferson style. So in figure drawings, it's all about balance. As humans, we're all finding balance, and we're all trying to basically combat this constant gravity that's being pushed down on us. And so in order for us to feel comfortable and relaxed, we create these different shifts in the balance and different leans so that, you know, our bodies feel more comfortable. So how do you know that your figure is in balance? Well, a lot of it comes from just drawing a lot, and to have that sense, you develop a sense of what looks natural and what doesn't. But if you want something like a little tip cheat code idea, is that you want to have a plumb line, a vertical line going straight down from the pit of the neck, the character's pit of the neck. And from that point, that line should end within around like 1 footprint's distance from the weight-bearing leg. And I know there's a lot of, you know, terminology here, but just bear with it for a second. The weight-bearing leg. So if we have this pit of the neck over here, and we drop a plumb line down, the weight-bearing leg, the leg that's holding most of the weight, it should be like really close to it. Oh, whoops, you can't see it. It should be really, really close to the leg that's bearing most of the weight, like right here. So the next idea, we've talked about gravity already. That's all checked off, gravity and balance of the figure. Now we want to talk about TT. I'm thinking of twice, right? I'm like TT, just like TT. So what is the TT? It's the tilt and twist of the torso. You want to look at the line for the shoulders and look at the line for the pelvis. And you want to have not, you know, you don't really want them to be parallel. You want them to have a little bit of diagonals to them, and they're building together, and it creates this accordion shape. This torso shape is going to really emphasize and push the pose. So if you have something like this, bam, right? These are your torso shapes that you really want to keep track of. If you have the S size of a torso, you can do something like that. So you want to try to keep these torso ideas in mind. So that's the TT. Squash and stretch, pinch and stretch. Aside, there should always be a strong dominant side in the body. So we have, this would be the main leading edge, and here would be little pinches going in. Main leading edge, pinch, pinch. Here, you kind of have two leading edges. There's one here, and then there's one here, and then there would be small pinches going in like that. So that's TT. We talked about gravity. We talked about TT. I'm like TT, just like TT. And then we hit in the engaged versus relaxed ideas. The yin and yang, the negative, positive and negative jing, right? Positive jing, negative jing, neutral jing. But we're not really talking about neutral jing right now. No earthbenders. We're going to be talking about positive and negative jing. So firebenders and what is it, like airbenders. So what all of this is talking about what areas are tensed up and what areas are relaxed. So this is talking about the leading edge. Or this is talking about the weight-bearing leg. If you remember from like 10 seconds ago, I talked about your pit of the neck needs to land the plumb line from the pit of the neck should land around 1 footprint away from, or within a footprint's distance of the weight-bearing leg. The weight-bearing leg is the leg that's active. It's the positive jing. It's the active one. It's the engaged leg. It's the one that's like, active and doing most of the work. So what this leg is, it's the leg that's holding most of the weight. We're all human, I'm assuming. So we've all stood up at some point, unless you haven't, like you're disabled or something. In that case, cool. If we stand up and you're waiting in line for something, you see that people in the line, they all have a strong weight-bearing leg. They like leaning to one side because that's just more comfortable. You have one weight-bearing leg that holds up most of the weight, and then your second leg is your negative jing, or even neutral jing, your inactive leg, and that's just keeping the balance. This leg is holding most of the weight. This leg is holding the balance. So you want to have that asymmetry with it. So these two are part of it. This is where we talk about the asymmetry. You have the free leg versus the weight-bearing leg. Now, a thing with the weight-bearing leg is that the hips tend to move up with the weight-bearing leg. The weight-bearing leg is holding up so much mass that it's nice and straight, right? Don't lock your knees, but the knees could be locked. And then that's what pushes this hip up. And then this next hip would be lower down because of like Pythagorean theorem or whatever. If these two legs are the same distance, then if this leg is going to be leaning out to the side, then it's going to be shorter, all of that fun stuff. So that's why you have this twist in the torso, or this unevenness in the hips. The very last idea, which is going to be the main point, is the body finds the most relaxed way to stand against gravity. Contrapposto is energy economy. It's the saving of energy. We are lazy. We don't like to stand at attention, like a military guy, fully erect, fully straight up and down, like hope, the whole time. It takes a lot of effort for us to be standing perfectly straight. So it's only natural for us to try to find ways to relax and try to find ways of putting ourselves in a more comfortable pose. And what is the comfortable pose? Is having this contrapposto and having a weight-bearing leg, having an active side and a relaxed side, having a nice TT, a twist and tilt in the torso. And yeah, so that's contrapposto as a whole. Now let's go into and start doing some practice demos. I have Miss Jisoo here. This was my very first art book that I bought back in the day, and I was basically looking to draw from it and study it, but unfortunately this had, the fundamental skills of this book was too high for me at the time because I didn't know how to draw, so I couldn't really get much out of it. So then I just put this book away. You can see it's like yellowing on the edge. Let's jump in. So we're going to analyze each of these poses. This one idea right here, we have a contrapposto. I'm going to ignore the head for now because we're going to be focusing on the TT and the active leg. So we have this torso being bent out like this, right? It's very subtle. It doesn't have to be super, pronounced like in some of the other drawings where you're really trying to emphasize it. But you can still see that this hip area here is having a nice little pinch, like right there. So that's what I have right here. And then look at that weight-bearing leg right here, right? This leg is erect. I don't know how else to say it, but it's super straight. It's holding the weight of the entire body like this. I made it too short, so I'm gonna make it higher like that. And then this leg here is just to hold the balance. So it's like more relaxed, more bent, right? To keep the balance out. And if you see, the pit of the neck is favoring the side of the foot here, right? And then the head does its own thing. And then the hands do its own thing. So this is what I mean when I've said before that the head and the arms don't matter too much in the pose, especially if you're just focusing on figure drawing and contrapposto. This torso is what matters the most, and then secondary would be the weight-bearing leg down here that's holding the body up. So we have the main twist, the pinch, the gravity, the weight-bearing leg, the TT, the bend and the tilt and twist, all of that. Now let's look at another one. So for these ones, you can see it's the same idea. The body has a twist. You can see that the tilt of the torso, the TT, is angled like this. It's not parallel, straight down. And then you have the legs. Now both of these legs are bent in that way, but you can still kind of tell that one of these legs feels stronger and the pose feels a little bit more natural. For this one here too, you have this one, this leg right here, being the weight-bearing leg. You have the TT, you have the little gesture twist of the body, and then this leg here is going to be the balancing leg. Same thing here. We have a strong bend in the torso, weight-bearing leg going down like this, because this is the tilt, this is the upside, this side is higher, so that means the weight-bearing leg should be on this side like this, and then this leg is just for balance. Pit of the neck, right? We can check it, and then head, arms, who cares about that? This is going to be the main idea for Contrapposto. So whenever you're kind of drawing your characters, like in my case, if I'm gonna do like character design or whatever, or just drawing someone standing, a lot of the times I do not really draw a full standing, exactly front aligned pose because it just doesn't feel natural. You can kind of start off like this, right? If we're talking in like a practicality sense, you can kind of start off like this so that you can try to figure out like, okay, like a fashion designer, like what kind of clothes, what kind of body type, all of that. But a lot of the times you just go straight in and start adding in contrapposto, start adding in different ideas. Like same thing here. Even from the back view, even from this main view, you have like the pose going out like this. You have the pinch, you have the main pose, you have the weight-bearing leg right here, so it goes right down. You have the balancing leg out here. So everything has this contrapposto. Same thing for the back area. This is the weight-bearing leg. You can see that this leg has a little bit more of a bend to it. You have a slight angle of the torso. So it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to have this angle all the time. You can have a pose that's very angled to one way and then the legs balance it the other way, right? So this is where, you gotta just draw a lot of figure drawings, do your gesture drawings. Here as well, you have a really prominent twist in the body right here, or a tilt, a TT, right? Like TT, just like TT, like this. And then here are the legs, because this person is active, their legs are in like an in-between in-between kind of pose, but this would be like the more main leg, so I'm putting that up front. But you have this kind of twist at all times. Here it's more subtle, these ideas, but it's the same idea, right? You have the head dropping down, you have the neck. Here the shoulders are pretty flat, and also the hips are also flat. So how would you kind of tackle this? I would offset the hips from the shoulders like that. Even though that they're both parallel, they're offset. So there's still a little bit of contrapposto to them, right? This shoulder overextends from the hip. So we have this shoulder going down. I'm going to end the hip here, so you have a little bit of contrapposto like this. These legs are pretty much evenly distributing the weight, but to me, I would put this one as like the main one, just because this body is leaning more towards the left side. So I'm gonna go like this. You have the gesture of the leg. This leg here is still holding the weight, so I'm not gonna, slide it all the way out here. Just gonna put it over here like this. The pit of the neck is pretty much centered down. Now my version is a little bit different from Miss Jisoo's version, but it's the same vibe. Like this, like that, right? And even just offsetting the horizontal lines can help out with some of the posing. The other one here is also a very subtle idea. as well. But you can see here, this leg is more clearly the weight-bearing leg, because this leg just feels like it's more, you know, reaching out for the balance. The torso doesn't have a lot of TT, but there's still slight TT, right? And there still has that little bit of bending and twisting. It's just very, very subtle. It just goes to show that you don't need to have a lot, like very, very exaggerated posing like you see in like gesture drawings and stuff like that. You can have subtle, but as long as you have the concepts of Contrapposto in mind, you'll be adding subtle bends and subtle twists and to the pose to make it feel natural. So this is from Powerpuff Girls Z. I've drawn Blossom and Buttercup. Let's do Bubbles, because I like Bubbles. Bubbles is what's it called, transformation, a lot better. So let's use this pose just for the more subtle light of it all. Let's go with, start with the head, dropping it down like this. We have shoulders like that. Now I'm gonna keep the pose in mind, but I want to start messing with the proportions to have more of the proportions from Powerpuff Girls Z. So I'm gonna try to keep the gesture alive. The head is going to be way bigger. The torso is going to be way smaller. And then the legs are going to be way simpler and way longer. Kind of like that. But the pose is going to stay the same. I'm going to pinch the waist in a little bit more, like that. Hand, try to capture the gesture of it all. Same thing with this one. Due to perspective, it's being covered. We have this sketch out here like this. Now let's make her look like Bubbles. I'm gonna use this pen that I have and kind of rock with it. So I'm not gonna put the lighting in the eyes just because I don't have a lot of, like, I didn't draw big enough for it. So I'm just gonna simplify it. The white in the eye, I'm not gonna put that. This right eye is a little bit too small, but it's fine. I'm just gonna deal with it. Cheek, Powerpuff Girl style, at least in the Powerpuff Girls Z. I like Powerpuff Girls Z. I'm like re-watching all the OG stuff. She's blowing a little bubblegum thing, so I'm gonna put that there. Puff Girls, her ears. Powerpuff Girls Z is like the it's like the Japanese reboot of it. In anime, they turned them into like I don't want to say basic, but like your typical shoujo manga, where it's like magical girls instead of the same like storyline as what's it called, as American Powerpuff Girls, as the OG Powerpuff Girls. Put something like this down. Make the head a little bit bigger, like this. Okay, something like that is going on, and then you put in Bubbles' hair. But I liked Bubbles' magical girl transformation music the best. It had like this funky bass groove. I think all the music in Powerpuff Girls Z is really, really good. Making the neck a little bit too long. I put the head up a little bit too high. There's too much distance right here, but it's fine. I'm just gonna deal with it. Everything is just fine. It is just fine. I'm gonna raise the shoulders up like that a little bit more, just to accommodate. Then like this, trying to get the torso like that, neck. She's looking older than normal, but it's all fine, man. You're just practicing, you're just studying. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now for here, I want to put in the jacket that they have, like the big poofy whatever jacket. So I'm just gonna be making it up as we go. So you have this hand here, like that. So just adding in a bunch of the structure. Now here, I want to make sure I capture this pinch in the waist so that the silhouette has a more distinct Powerpuff Girl vibe to it. So I'm going to make sure I leave like a stronger gap right there. Like this. Hand, they all have bigger hands. So I'm going to basically kind of do something like this. Skirt. I probably wouldn't have been able to see that hand if I had drawn the skirt more, but you know, you live and you learn. I'm just going with pen, so I can't erase or do anything with it. The little pleats, skirt pleats. You can add in like the fun little details of it all, like that. And then we have the legs, and the legs are simplified. And they're wearing like their tech shoes. And then we have their high socks, their thigh-high socks. I like putting a shadow on the ground, like that. So I think I lost a little bit of the pose when I kind of redid it. This is just like your typical standing pose, but it has a little bit more gesture to it, a little bit more life to it, mainly because the entire time I'm keeping in mind the ideas of Contrapposto, the ideas of TT, the ideas of gravity, trying to keep everything balanced, trying to have that baseline, the foundation of a twist and turn and everything. Even though the pose is nothing special, it has a little bit more life to it than just a stiff, like standing pose where everything is perfectly straight down.